Namo Guru Be Namo Bedaya Namo Dharamaya Namo Sangaya Namo Namo Bedaya Namo Dharamaya Namo Sangaya Namo Namo Bedaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sangaya Kande la ye Rai gai zhuo za bo de zhuo zhe zhe che ye ye bo ye ye lo zan zha se lo ye bo ne de ye zo zo de ye no ga se de be de che ze ye mo ma ye be zo ga je da lo de be se yo no je jo do de yo bo ye che ke yo ro jo zo zo she ye je ge ja ye be ye lo de ke yo zo ye no ye ke yo le je zo ta me ye lai me ze be go to de be de lai cha ze ye wo che ye na zo me do che je do be na ze te ja zo we ja ye de che de ya zo se no je jo che ya la je ba be ka je ya do ya me te ya ne sa ba ye le ya ye me ge je ba che ya ba ra do ya ba so ye me de cho ni ya ne Wow. Let us cultivate bodhicitta motivation, or the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of at least contrived bodhicitta motivation, we should participate in this discourse on Bodhisattva's way of life. Thank you, Doctor. Just to recapitulate a little bit what we talked about last week, as you may recall that we have been going through what is called a 7-branch practice, literally translating Tibetan term called Yenla Thimba, which are basically 7 essential practices, and which include going for refuge in the 3 jewels. And according to some scholars, what they say is that taking refuge in the 3 jewels is related to the power of objects of reliance. Remember, when we talk about 4 powerful antidotes or Nyenpo Topshi, Tenji Top, the power of objects of reliance, which normally include refuge and fully awakened mind or bodhicitta development. So some scholars say that the practice of refuge belongs to the power of objects of reliance. But other scholars say, well, it also belongs to the power of antidotes, constantly applying antidotes. That's what Nyembo Kundichaba means. But regardless of how we classify the practice of refuge, whether it belongs to the power of objects of reliance or the power of antidotes, applying antidotes, it is one of the 7 essential practices. And so we'll continue the discussion of the practice of refuge, and we will also explore the reason why that practice matters, why going for refuge is important.
탐지 뭐고 뭐시베 도메드 딕사 도메드 딕사 제바니 게데 이 텐데 메바 차이는 딕바지 시시나 치에 뒤로 봐봐나 신지게베 뉴드 세네스 사비 롱주등 예도에서 that yedu 묘에 자당 yedu 묘에 서가서 yedu 묘에 자당 냥도 두베 녀탐제 슈드 포디 저니 지구 도메디스 마지에 쁘tom바 신 이제 치매람도 그래서 치매람도 참 차디 도고바 다금 다데 뒤서 대 다데 뒤서 대다를 마시베 대장가가 공부하시네서 자와 년지 쇼다 편다데 이제 지대지 요마다 민자와 다이 쇼소 요 주무 never did, never saw. So you told yes, Shadangi, going along this. So just a dig what number not so she, Daniel so yes, said dig la some days in Jeva. Teta Shedaji Minzawa, Danam Jan, Shini Meva Gyeltsen. Shashi Yu Zawa Ni Namja, Shini Meva Gyola. Shadaga Koka, Dadi Ni Jong Shivapu, Pogobo Dani Jan. Say Dushene, Meva Gyoa Te, Tishindu. Didu to me, Sabe, say, no longer Tamji Jan, top the northern so Tamji Meva. Juena, Tawden Jusejan, Mela, Yera, a Latin, Eden Shazan, Charmanu, Tedagi, Shady. Shadang Langbe, Deva Sabes, Tom Mebo Yam, Tom Mebo, Chuba Yam, Gyeltsen. Pen Milum Gyeltsen, Gyeltsen, Kajada, Telia in the Diva Shah, the categories, and they got Shaw without chain. Shaw without chain, and she does the categories, and so the Royal. And the Lejamro, Shida the Goodiers, she had the yellow chairs, she had gained Mount Boris, Soya gained the humor of Yammer, there Soya gained the Seven Nemil, Lunzu, she the social Shida, Soya gained the Shave and Joy, the said call good situation, you was on me what today I wish some good. This Sunday, and the Josh Shemal, so the Kanon with Dosameda, Leo Rogaza. Any coaches you move to the Liber Samni. Any Della Yajaya never could jolly share he says on in the touch courage Bada, till the Jebby never could so easy go in any chance to go worries. But they did it that Dival Doyag, Dival Jevasia, Jabdo Shigo with Jesus and Divasha with Jesus and what he shares.
Nice. So why going for refuge in the three jewels matters, or relatedly speaking, why confession practice, purification practice, shakpa matters? As Geshe read through the relevant commentary on at this point, for us to be able to purify ourselves of our negativities and seek refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, it is very important that we reflect on impermanence of life and things, how everything is very transient. And so when the life comes to an end, no one has any control over our life, and it will end. There's nothing we can do about it. But that's not the end of the storyline, because after death we will be reborn. And what will determine our next rebirth is the type of karmas that we have done and accumulated. So it's very important for us to reflect on the impermanence of our life and things. And as it's stated there that our life is, metaphorically speaking, like a burning candlelight cast in a windy place. That candlelight can be extinguished anytime. There are many adverse conditions cutting short our lifespan, whereas the favorable conditions supporting the life are very few, and even these favorable conditions such as food and drink, they could easily become adverse conditions, cutting short our lifespan. So from those perspectives, we can see that our life is very ephemeral, very transient, very impermanent. It can snap anytime. So when we think about that impermanent nature of the life, and we think about the general suffering of samsara, cyclical existence, and particular sufferings of samsara, then we started to experience the sense of fear, right? Nobody likes suffering of any kind, and what can really protect us from suffering is only if we trust Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, so this is how we see how refuge practice matters. The only really thing that can save us, protect us, from doing the wrong things, negativities, and doing the right thing is to trust Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, that they have the ability to protect us and they have the ability to guide us. And so through that kind of contemplation or reflection, then we are able to do our confession practice, diksha, that also includes practice of refuge, going for refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Yes.
Jogu Naso, Nyamsu Nyoya. Ni said that Tamji, Tebe Yuzam, the Joji. Most Tony, Nyamsu Nyoya, Minjo, teaching the Minum Tabu, said the Yen Zashidang, Lindy Dos, Segu North, Norsola, Lungene, Deji Nyuatam, Jada Lindy, Deji, the Todu, Tabu so shave, Dungan Yuatabu, they do the Tea Judge, Saji, you go on the con, Cheva Teta, Tita Jenny, she, sure, she would say. Milum Nimbana Seva Tarnanya, the Tita, so young she came you some Georgie, Kanda Kandas, and Deva Tamji, the Tonji. You are mean you did dinner. Young Jatadas and Gossip young shadows. What the Pelicaris did that country. Many of the towns they do Korean and Yunga Yoruba so. She said they only has a Yoruba in the Yomo. She citizen Tebe, she was but till a yak, Milim got the Yago, Yap, Tinyams, do mean I. And it did do Jayati, you didn't Miluna Shimashio Morris. She said they Todalia, any Daniel Main, Shadon, Chinitiang, any the belly Bombarduya Gagadi. Koje said Chimal Noyamadu, said they want you me ping she do in it. Ye Maboy and no lose persons of a bit. Zabel on the Wina, Tidaga and the Tele Suzuki, you are the news of Kia Maris. She had said the soldier the Gilia in the Jones the Tane, in the Shimet on that some of Tanshi in it. Because I didn't get a sugar, that necessary.
So it's important for us to seriously reflect on the transient or transitory nature of our life, and it has a limit. So at the time of death, when we reflect on our life, whatever happened in our life, good or bad, success or failures, it's all like we had a big dream, right? It's all gone. There's nothing. So what will follow us after death are our karmic actions. And so when we do and accumulate a lot of negativities, out of attachment to family, friends, and dear and near ones, and out of hatred and disliking those we call enemies, and kind of how should I say, our life ends that way. So at the end of the life, when we reflect on that, what is left is all the negativities that we accumulated, and they are going to precipitate our rebirth into unfortunate states where we will have a lot of suffering. Yeah. So the point is that it's not worth getting too much attached to this life, too much attached to family, friends, and dear and near ones, and create a lot of negativities, or dislike and hate we call enemies and do a lot of negativities either, because those things really, the friends and enemies anyway, they are not fixed. They do change. Relationships do change. So the example given in the commentary is like, what we experience in a dream. In a dream state, when we are dreaming, we might have this excitement and happiness and bliss and all of those things. Or we might go through the hell in our dream experience, right? It all looks real, the happiness and unhappiness in the dream. But once we wake up, nothing seems to matter. There was no substance to our dream, right? So it's just a memory. We said, oh my gosh, I had that wonderful dream. Oh my gosh, I went through the hell in my dream. That's all there is. Yeah. So in the same way, at the end of our life, when we reflect on our life, all the good and bad things, it's like a dream. whatever has been done, whatever has been experienced is gone. What is left is whatever karmas that we have accumulated, and this will determine our next life or existence. And so in that way, we should kind of bring our enthusiasm into the Dharma practice, right? Seeking refuge in the three jewels and staying the course, staying on the Dharma path. Nice. So it's really very important for us to engage in Dharma path and Dharma practice. So the question is, how can we bring sincerity, dedication, enthusiasm, and all of that into the Dharma? Yeah. So as it is described in the commentary, that we should learn to give less importance to the things of this lifetime. If we really think of our life personally, we seem to invest everything in this life for the happiness and well-being of this life. Yeah, so for the well-being of our own life, for the well-being of our family and loved ones, and so we invest everything, right, in this life and the well-being of this life. But however successful we become in this life, let's say we own the whole world, right? The whole world belongs to us, it's that rich. But at the end of our life, right, we reflect on the meaningfulness of owning the whole world. There is no meaning here, right? The world resources cannot save us. We will die. There's nothing. We have many loving friends and families and whatnot, supporters. At the end of the life, being attached to them all our life and doing a lot of negativities for their sake, right? We just have to take our karmas because none of them can save us or go with us. They can rejoin us on the next journey. Okay? And however, right, successful we get in terms of fame and reputations, at the end of the life, it is an echo. It's not going to be of any help or substance. Right? So this is a perspective we use to bring sincerity, dedication, and enthusiasm into our Dhamma practice. So what is really meaningful, if you ask, is the Dharma that can stand by us at the time of the death and thereafter. Okay? But yet, if we check with ourselves, how much we invest in the happiness of the next life, we hardly do. Everything has to do with this life, but this life will end. So at the end of the life, when we kind of do the accounting of, okay, I have this great success, I have this big bank balance, Geshe said the Swiss bank account, and I have all this, wonderful families and friends, the big and all of that. At the end of the life, there is no substance really, because none of them can do anything for us. Yet, all the negativities we have accumulated for our happiness of this life, for the sake of them, out of attachment and out of hatred to those whom we don't like them, these karmas will, bite us. This is going to determine our, next life. So this life, in the scheme of all the things, when we think in terms of many lifetimes, this life is really insignificant, nothing, because the future lives are countless, isn't it? Yet we really don't seem to care about the well-being of the future lives. We just seem to be stuck with this life and the well-being of this life. Yeah? So this is how we are not able to dedicate ourselves into the Dhamma practice. And even when we do practice, we are not able to bring the whole enthusiasm and sincerity, but all our sincerity, dedication, enthusiasm goes into investment of this lifetime, which fails us at the end of the life. Until then, looks like we don't realize it, right? Then we look back, it's just a dream, good or bad. And so as we kind of consider this kind of perspective in our life, the mindset thinking, this will really help us to be able to bring ourselves into the Dhamma practice, right, with all sincerity, dedication, enthusiasm, and all of that. Yes.
Ngan de la de da da henji de du so je de chi da da jo yang de be shi ta ta to da nyo me de menem ji pe ten de se she ma da ba ta yi be so onu de da ji so da kharsa che de le be da ni she de ya ene de le ya cha ba jo de da mo je ni ti Shadani Gunlani and the Dibashi Sajo was. So Dibas Sajo, the she do the because I did to Basaki with no lungu that Zoga Beveredo or Jil Lapajabina. And it did Dibasajo to get their Beveredo Maris. So Dibasajo, the Beveredo Maris, because this was it. When it did that, que todos digba saba minhum nyamna danye da todos sibe digba nam desenja digbe le da ke nami se mise payan nyogo joa kai ba tene duena gugbe suji neyin luji temakin meteor ngeba te Geva the Damba se Zada Menze Tondi se Marshive Yedi Lene Liu Shen Na Yedi Lene Minum Yushen Tang She the Tata Rangi Neve Zung de la Yushungs Geshe, 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 Dunzatang, Minzatang, Geshe, Dunzatang, Minzatang, Nazu, Tundang, Yijuchi, Xia Tongxing, Tuba Maina, Xedang, Tuji, Nian, Jiwun Rojina, Hoda Longju, Longju, Nianxi Jemenda, Jibutan, Honda Khan Jejang, Lene Trema, Lene Trema, Shendi, Jason, Lene Trema, Shendi, Judah, Jesus. Oda Cheta de Kersa, Sasha, in a Digbada to the Mayor Raymond, Kersa. Kersa, the straw to the Mayor Ganga shadow, and the worship the Jewish. When you are there, Colonel Yashi did Mayor and doors of the body in the Kersa. Zada Menza doing Sasha, Gangati, the Chigatola Mashi, and we can use the Tremana idea or is.
No.
She's the tea in that the Suzu Vigata, in should Divaka Yasavina. Saya to the Dagi, you remember to the Sayana. She did the Divata Soju make you and the sweet old Divasa no tea. Digwati Yakosha, and she did the Kizzy Digwati in a bed, direction with that. J. Jamson, Goshaja in the tower, what Gosha Yamaris. So the Chigo couldn't progress. So the tea in the dad said the midway Mombashiva goes to Tongori, so Gaga to Tongozo Karishiki, Goga goes to Tongori. She said that today in the dad Jashamu Kaze, some tonna in the said the Yimbo Meratona, in the Hondu, the Mona, in the church, Joshimalia. Tarba Tabishiba Goma Toya, Zobashia, Yungro, direction the country Gidig in Djibouti, Chu Miso, Golin, some of you don't resist him.
So, what we just talked about is this that all the success and failures of our life, at the end of our life, when we look back, it really didn't matter. It's like a dream. What matters is all the karmas that we've accumulated, because they will follow us. Okay? And so nothing really stands by us. Almost everything fails us at life. This is not something we have to take on a blind faith, because this is something we witness in our lives, right? And we have lost our dear and near ones. What did they bring with them? They couldn't bring us with them. Maybe some of them are very rich. Well, they couldn't bring anything with them. Okay? Some of them very famous. What did the name do for them? Nothing. So what followed them are their own karmas. A lot of negativities they accumulated for their own sake and for the sake of us out of attachment. Okay? So we can find a lot of examples, right? That famous and rich and bold and beautiful, right during the life seems like these things matter most, but at the time, now because they are gone, we see there is no substance, didn't matter. The boldness didn't help, the beauty didn't help, the richness didn't help, nothing helped, and they just went empty-handed. So that will be the same with us too, right? And so we should learn not to create, so much negativities out of attachment to our dear and near ones, and out of hatred towards those who we see as our enemies. And there was a question kind of raised how we said that at the end of the life everything fails, right? Nothing can follow us. So then they said, well, wouldn't our negativities get cancelled by then, right? Because our wealth got cancelled, it's no use. Our friends and family is no use because they couldn't help us. So what about the negativities we accumulated for them, like justification? We did this for them. Don't they get cancelled at the end of the life, like, okay, you are forgiven, cancelled? No. The karmas don't get cancelled there. They follow like the shadow, right? And we have to pay the price. So the negativities that we accumulate for our own sake or for the sake of our dear and near ones or who we care is very personal, right? They cannot share in the results of this negativity. It's not like a gift, or it's not like responsibility. You know what, at the death, I say, you know what, hey, this is becoming too much for me, so can you take your share out of this karma? You know, you take some of this and I'll only take this much. That's very fair, equitable, equity and equality. No. Whatever karmas we created, it's just nobody's except you. You know, deal with it. That's your personal. And so therefore, that's what's going to determine our next life. And so we can see the essencelessness of investing everything in this life and the goals of this lifetime. So as we really consider this matter, we do critical thinking, reflection, then that really helps us to be able to prioritize Dharma as the meaningful thing, and it is worthwhile for us to put all our sincerity, dedication, enthusiasm, and energy into that. Okay? It's for that reason we do this kind of reflection or thinking.
Number 6 said me, any shot the Batagmar Zero, said the Jevashiguris, or the Gaza, Tadakasaya, the Nimbo to me at the Garas and this or that. Ranya Pasu to the chose Jeremy, you go quite tend to call a sort of dad dashing in Yamara, was a Kosabaja, she said, Daniel got bed, Daniel Reza, Came Sharwa, or said that Daniel going Sina, she had to do or this or that. But this is die show the near Shakwashi, your Mari, and so it depends on some of the die ceremony work here. The typical said they said to me that the new German warrior, she said Daniel in Yava, but it is sometimes Daniel shut on the major shin. Any big Karsa. Time was get to risk. The time can any give her the top sugar or the service.
So here, of course, this chapter 2 is about confession practice or purification practice, diksha. And as we said that for our confession or purification practice to be effective, we need to integrate the 4 powerful antidotes or nyempo topshi. Yeah? And which includes the power of regret or contrition, gyöba. If we really sincerely don't regret for the negativities we have done, then we will not be sincere in confessing our negativities, purifying them. So the power of regret matters, And as Geshe just explained, how we invest everything, almost everything in this life, the well-being of this life, and taking care of our dear and near ones, and counteracting those who we don't like it. So we really spend our lives too much in attachment and hatred, isn't it? Okay? And these are the ones influence us to do a lot of negativities. Out of attachment, we do a lot of negativities for ourselves and for the sake of taking care of our dear and near ones. Out of anger or hatred, we do a lot of negativities to control and to defeat and to knock out we call enemies, But if we really, seriously consider the uncertainty of relationships, then we can see the frivolous nature of all our activities, because there are no such things as friends, how should I say, ever and ever, or enemies forever and ever, fixed entities. Yeah, because as we change our rebirths, friends become enemies, enemy becomes friends, strangers become friends, strangers become enemies, right? This is the changing nature of relationships. And also in this life, we know that friends in the early part of the life could become enemies in the later part of the life, or vice versa. So which means relationship is very dynamic and not a fixed entity. Yeah, and so if we think about that, then we are able to cultivate a sense of equanimity, right, towards all beings. Because we see that, well, if enemies can become friends, why do I have to hate them too much? Because when they become friends, I'm going to like them a lot, right? And why am I attached too much to my friends? Because if they're going to become strangers or enemies pretty soon, why do I ignore the strangers? Because they might become friends, So when we really look at this changing nature of relationships, then we see the essencelessness of, practicing attachment and hatred, or getting too much attached to, this and hating too much this side, So as we are able to cultivate a sense of equanimity, then that is a very strong, firm ground for creating a lot of powerful, virtues or karmic actions.
This is because never cheating is the generation, Chigoja, Tse Mazo Baras, new the color cheese. Tetsam Jim was a young Nize Gundis, Dundu Nishaki, Dundu Nisha, Dundu Nisha Hong Kasu Young, 2 cases of young, so Davis, Kogameva, Shazam, Youngna, 2 Ninja, Chick, so Chick, remove to the one. Cases of Deva, yes, Katabu, Yumi Mevas. She was said, Dushin Dini, Tadi, Gova, Kuva Jom, Zeva, Jojing. Father Chisholm, Zeva tea, Susan years. Solas, no one Shiva young. Kuna, Junse jumps on young woman. That will give a duty show and Gyeltsen, she made duty. During a telling the Nejang. So that surely Mandina, not sure, never Watang. Namjing Yemi, Chambers, Gonis, Tadu Tang. Yurdu Digba Joatang, Yardovas, Beaver Showers, what even that country at a shitty begging, so we get it along with distributing younger edition. I hear that some of the humorous. Today we tell us in Shushia, she comes out, she go over Calical Shiso, the Senna, and the Namjing Eme said the correct. Say the yes, in it, say the Moses, said there as the consumer of the Yamara, was a Lega Karina, Lord and Dawa Panasha, Karishina Share, that is said that Kishik Panasha Yamara, what is it? This year, Jogo Shushia, just Telamashina, and Diva the Mashak on the Shesana, any news of the Changu Sheda. Jogo Shushu do Sadi because it doesn't Lavisha doesn't Karsa. Never share some bashi, Tadisha, this is it. Namsing Miss Hours of the Ora. No, so this is it. So that's Zoga young. She read us here, does Karsa, Ganza, catch up the Midula see me ever do dear Marot, that which me gave us the Ganga Tiago or a mission did the English says they are. She said, Namjing, that some of the lamps in Shayajra. 저 남신 예외의 해서는 아니 당보야 메타버 돼야지 쉬어 돼야 된다 시. 다 메타버 되는 시니에 뜻서 취시고도 상야 예외 간에 도스 양도야 되라. 인 남신 예외에서 남신 라르나 돼야로. 그래서 뒤니 동서나 인내 취시해야 될이야. 휴게셔 되고 시도 또 공부를 쓰세요.
By the way, all the commentary Geshe-la has been giving pertains to many stanzas there, which Geshe-la read in Tibetan before, gave us the oral transmission. I didn't have a chance to read them, but of course you know English better than I do, so you can read the things for yourself. It's stanzas from 32 to 38 on page between 15 and 16 in the English translation by Stephen Batchelors. So what Geshe-la just explained is this, that for us to be able to, and bring into Dhamma practice, study, we should reflect on the impermanence or transitoriness of our life and things. Yeah? Because this life is not going to last forever. Now that's something we all know. In the context of Lamrim, when we meditate on like death and dying, there are a few essential points. Death is certain, right? We all know that, right? One day is going to be goodbye time, right? There's nothing mystery about that. Okay? But if reflecting on the impermanence will help us to be able to direct our mind into Dharma. Okay? But then we might get into this habit. I know I'm going to die. Nobody lives forever, and I know that I have to pay for my karmas, right? If I do good, I'll have good. I do bad, I'll have bad. I know that. But I'm very busy right now. I have these plans. So I can't practice now. I'll practice, tomorrow or whenever. So we have the habit of procrastinating the practice. We kind of know, yes, life has a limit, and the karmas do bring their outcomes, but we have our own justification, excuses that I cannot practice now because, there will be time, I don't think I'm going to die today or soon. There is a time. So there's no rush. Why should I stress out too much now? So this is why often we, lose a lot of opportunities, So to bring the sense of urgency, we have to reflect on the uncertainty of time of death. Yes, death is certain, but the time of death is uncertain. It can come anytime, and when it comes, there is no way to extend the time, right? We cannot say, oh my gosh, I didn't know, right? I have this plan, let me finish this, and then you can take me out. No. When it comes, it comes. Doesn't matter whatever you're doing, that's the end of this life. So if we reflect on the uncertainty of time of death, this could literally happen any time, then we cannot afford to procrastinate our practice for another day, right? Because before the another day comes, the death could come first. So that will help us to bring the sense of urgency to engage in positive actions and to do our practice. So these two sets of mind, reflecting on the impermanence of life and things, reflecting on the uncertainty of time of the death, can be very powerful motivating factors for us to be able to engage in the study and practice of Dhamma sincerely, and that too now, urgently.
고도직발이 거기 건다야 맞는 차도 다도 거도 쓰듯이 계직지야 되면 그 세르가 직발이 다 세다서 그러면 냠줘야 돼서 찍다 애니 계직식이 셔도 거기 포도리스 어디 포도리스는 거에서 어디 라우리스 되고 내가 쓸 가면 돼 대단 대진레세 대진세데 그래서 그런 소데 소데 등어 투메 거데 시계지를 냠버시징 표하셔는 거야메도 셰다 메다베 담레장 다우치베스 진신도 저 당체베스 군장 시외 리 럼슈는 러브를 첼라세 수예데 셰다 솜레 베나 타니 잡발라 그네 강다 강송에 강쪽베스 튀은지 땡라 똑바 다 메는 소예 대신의 셰소스 어디에 셰다다 세즈 세루 세다도 뜻이거다 세바 조요를 가르스는 가르사들이 딱지셰베도 증세는 우리는 뭐 쉬우면 증강강샤 이리 미네테스 바토샤이는 어다 이 마자즈 세야미 이제 코 야피아제요 뭐 세야 타셔서 어디 딱지셰베 증세세데 어디 가서디 너비메 셀 너비자요 뭐 추억달다 양비자시라요 말 먼저 사야도에 다 잡아줘도 잡아대 요구도 새 요구도 세요도 거리는 세조지 너비자요라 셀에네 디레 녀야다 너비자들이 요 말이시오로 가자 그때 레는 냠신 표하셔도 그냥 매도 해당세 미다 좀 세야도 되라 당시에 정시듯이 의문되어다 제가 그제 시에 정시 들어서야 되시도 somles도 체디 som세야 되는 타 당기 배시고 다 타지도 타다도 그거에서 뿌려래 가니 이제 따고서 이런 거 거야지 시다 다 가고 서울디 시다 살아서 이만 가게는 따져라 그때나 이러고서
So in the commentary, they were commenting about the use of two Tibetan words which may have slightly different meaning connotations, but they come down to the same thing. So in one the word in the Tibetan that is called decreasing, like lifespan is decreasing, it's not increasing, it's become short and shorter, right? The other Tibetan word can be translated as disintegration, how life is momentarily disintegrating. So that is constant, right? With every passing moment, life is disintegrating. There is no interruption here. It is continuously, momentarily disintegrating. So in essence, degrees and disintegration say the same thing. Our life is, on the downhill. It's not getting longer, right? It's getting short and shorter. So we should really think about that. And so as the life becomes shorter, at the end of the life, we cannot ask for extension of life, right? There's no such thing as Geshe didn't say, maybe in the footnote you will let me do it. We cannot fill up the form and extend our life. Hey, I need 2 more years. There is no extension form here, With the food and other things, if we are running out of stock, we can say, like as Geshe said, maybe we should go and buy some more barley and make more samba because we are running out of samba soon. Okay, we need to buy more vegetables. Well, that's something we can stock up, we can add. But the lifespan, you cannot add or extend. It comes to an end, it comes to an end. Okay? So it is, something that we should take into account seriously. When the life comes to an end, there's nothing much we can do about it. It is like the example given of, we think in terms of the, let's say, waterfall or a river or something. If we somehow, stop the source of the water, right, then pretty soon that river will dry out, isn't it? So like that, when the life energy is exhausted, life will come to an end, and there's no more addition to life here. No.
Karsa Nyeso ji tonde se dile che tedake se dunge nyo to shibi jigmi kuzo nyana na kyewa chibi tuso dunge nyo to shiba meba masi kyewa dinyi tuyo to shiba mede del rang shiwa la nyawar shokbe se dane khandi ne ki tebe se mesa de na do shin Yinshi zidung jen tamje dang, memba da neyo da wu bize, pedo sheba gunji se, so tayi tamje de se, korne do jang, so sheba yi nega je, so zumu yidi muwa, da mudunga ta da ni, jibu nyansu nyuan jiwe, jiwa le nyenshi so sui jang dungen ji goge lemba tang dungen sewe se to sheta me la ter ma se shendu jingsu rame shadu jingi shinji ponya ni ngo so sinde kela shakpa jing ne se rojik buru chiwe se nyam taba jiwa la nye ji jiwin she sam nye bu jishi pen she pen la chuo zawu de shi nam yi jang ene jishi pen de te da wu se dungi sui jang za do minu so sui jang jab minu so mi de o di so da ko je ene so so de be Mimye to the Diva Mova Sasha with the any Karsa said the Karsa de this Urata, Sheta, to the near to the Diva Mova Sasha, any Divati got a Divatia Gosha Gio, or the Gosha Maris, Diva so Gio, Diva so Gio Saguris, any. Tinyishi kase yuna tudu shiya maris. Teta mazi tse deli ya tso dungen tabu ta shiga tabu na zaja nesho tsoa mete washi shibu ngamda tabu kase shi yuna deli ya edu sudu nyishi tizo ki shaki zami kunzu len pa yamru tanga ya maris. So chubu nyungu maris. Oti jawa shimad pa shote tse digi shiga dungen tia kunzu ten jungu ya maris. Yes.
On page 16 and top of page 17, you find stanzas highlighting. Let me read stanza 39, 40, and 41. Remaining neither day or night, life is always slipping by and never getting any longer. Why will death not come to one like me? So our life is constantly on decline and continuously and momentarily disintegrating. That's what the life is. So how can we think that we are not going to die one day? Because death will surely come. Okay? The next stanza, while I am lying in bed, deathbed, although surrounded by my friends and relatives, the feeling of life being severed will be experienced by me alone. Yeah? So what this says is that, whatever karmas we accumulate, mostly negativities, out of attachment for our dear and near ones, these karmas, will bring the results and we have to experience them. They cannot share in this outcome of this karma. Okay. Forget about the fact that nobody can share our experience of future lives. Even in this lifetime, when we are on a deathbed, right? Our friends and relatives, they can visit us. They can just give us the company, but none of them can do anything, right? They cannot experience that the life that's coming to an end is very personal. That's one's own life, right? They cannot share that. They're like, oh yeah, I know, that I'm also kind of dying with you. Like, no, just they can surround us, they can try to comfort us, but in reality, the painful death experience is very personal and nobody can share that. So even in this life, what's happening at the end of the life, they really cannot share that pain. Yeah. So which means what happens in the next life, all the karmas that will ripen, that's all going to be very personal. Nobody can share with us that. And on top of page 17, stanza 41 reads, when seized by the messengers of death, what benefit will friends and relatives afford? My merit alone shall protect me then, but upon that I have never relied. No.
Ni jebe dungi ji sungu nombu taba tabu nombu taba son nombu taba tabu soa chabu se mise bata komba de lu chawa la sobe dungi yang nyungo ba te tabu se dungi te ta ja ranji bu nyang nyo ma to nye so su yang se jabda me do shi den de se donati te nushi je digvada rangi mabana debit nebe dungi nyungze sujang te sami je de mo sa ti se ta mi shida ganga de tire hiwa marde mi digva sheboda de khashi ne shigala mole be na chan za cha na za she ne ni shira ye do so she ngam ra she ni shia yor ba ta tire zan da ni she ga ga ta de ni ko yor de she na te so so sungu de konzo shashi ji len ma len to ma res she da konzo ko sungu mi so yo de go he ja ji na ni mo bo yo na ne ko yang ri hu do ro de ko he ja mi so ko ji bu ni wa res tire ri she da ta ja shi ma di ba de ali go he ja pa sho se de le ko do go ni wa te ni shi chop to ma res ti ma te ta ba de da ro ji bu nyong nyam nyong ta ma to ni ro so su ja ta me do she den de do no se de ni ji ju di ba da rang ma ba na di bu ne be do nge su do nge nyong se su yang ze te se da me ji de ba o se o de da ko nyong bo de di so na en so so be da nge me mo bo to ji ko to ni to be mo bo to sa za en di ba de a be yo ro do yu ji so bo di de so mo te sam lo no du res o de ta di ba sa be ju ti lu ju de ni shi ga ge nyong do phi ju dang go ri de ko ma to ko ji she na o di kuma ko di ba ko ro ji wo ni ma re ma de ni shi so ye kuma ko ji do go he ja bi ma sa de de ya bo so
So still continuing commentary relating to stanza 40, where while I am lying on my deathbed, my loving friends and family are all surrounding me. They're helpless, but they're there. And the death experience that I'm going through is very personal. Nobody can share it. That's just mine, and mine alone. Okay? And as explained in the commentary, not that everybody has to die a painful death, but many do, especially those who have created so much negativities. Sometimes at the time of the death, they just freak out like anything. You know, they get all these premonitions, and they get anxiety attack, and then they get this trauma, and then they get this pain, and then they're just hallucinating. And all this experience on the deathbed is very personal. Right? Nobody's except one's on alone, and friends and families are just helpless. There's nothing they can do. Right? If they could share in this experience, maybe it's not too bad, right? You take some and you take some. You take my anxiety, you take my stress, you take my hallucination, and okay, I can handle this one. No, this is just what it is. And as Geshe explained, that all the negativities we do and accumulate for the sake of our dear and near ones, these are also very personal. They can share in that, right? Let's say through all kinds of cunningness and everything, like we become very rich, right? Our friends and family can share in the richness, right? Everybody wants their share in the wealth. But the negativities that we accumulated, right? Nobody can share that. That's just one's own personal thing. Okay? And so that's what is going to, and we have to pay for that karma. Nobody else will. And so these are the things we should reflect upon so that we will be able to counteract our attachment to dear and near ones, hatred towards enemies, and we'll prioritize Dharma as more meaningful than just getting sucked into the affairs of this lifetime.
Goji tawa jiwa ina sonum gewe le teyang tingu dagi masa shing yula ma do shiva de gewa masa bala jiva jizu yin la donna ti tse pinji ge se jutamba ni shu rangi madro na and tele shembe se pinji shembe do shedemba wosa jewa damal dole doa shenda dinin do meje taman nye so ne sunsi chik lu shije jibu ta jehi ta churji on du son u yo ne che de kadan na ne dang so ne zik pama ka so ne zik pama dang punu de sengmo de bomu ni kor no nam gosha cha shi ses jiu ma dang punu dang ka sa jiu ma dang jiu pai jiu pa shi so ti ze chu ma do ba jam ni shi mi gu mi ni shi mi bu ni shi mi do ji bu shi bu ti ze ti no chu ni ling da ne da gu da and to ba ju shi so da chua nam jang shi de do nge da nhân sĩ chưa gì sẽ cho người đề sĩ chẳng thế là nhân đã sang bị yu mê đề nên cho bà nên sẽ chung chế tổ bản ra xe đằng giả sử cho bà đề ghế lý sĩ dĩ số nâng xe chừng chí xin nâng cho mà tổ bà đưa xe ta là sẽ thủ yếu mà y tế cha mẹ nhân sĩ mê chừng khoyami cheda shiri nagan zani chang saji shida chu jor chang shini jigdin shin shuze nyangon tangla sa de chom tar chigbu semi zumomi nasa mashi shime shi dagmi kasapagmi tubung ngamala tu maga chang sesu tu bung nga maga sesu ma ji se ma ji jik zem ni ji se shindang gi jesu dong ngo dona da ni ji chen dang ya ti ze me na xie ji me xie song so sa ta ti re ja 거기 다 니카도 대대자 간지 간지 주주 걔들 주는 텔미까지 차지고 걔들 주스면은 텔미까 차지 배세야스 도시제 애들 대 치마 등에 용야다 그래서 탑시 현다 다가다 세디 도셔드가 핑물다 페야지나 엔시아무자 곰 남지기미 곰나 엔지 페야지로 다 디제 페야잔 메코 주스 베베시 이나 엔코 마섬 가여로 다 등에셔로 메고 코 사모도니 디타피시니 메서면은 네 가이페야요 말아 등에셔로 메고 데 쇼서 모자 시 나지 보디는 야고 그래서 제가 다 디제 봐서 줘야 예자 근데 메다 공부한 남지기미 공부 그거 유제되고 소아에 유제제도 공부하라. 어디 있어?
As Geshe explained, that the reason why we are really discussing, things as impermanence of life that we should reflect upon, and uncertainty of the time of the death, because these, how should I say, teachings or these reflections can bring about necessary changes within our mindset, and we will be able to direct our mind into virtues and into Dhamma practice. So we could, improve ourselves. We could change the things for better. That's why we are discussing this. Hypothetically speaking, if really there's nothing in the world we can do anything, then there's really no point of talking about all these things at all, right? Just like great Bodhisattva, Mahasattva Shantideva says in his guide to Bodhisattva's way of life, if something can be done, or if this problem can be solved, why you are really so unhappy about it, right? If nothing can be done, what's the point of getting worried about it, This is it, okay? So, hypothetically speaking, if there's nothing we can do, life is going to end one day, okay? And there's nothing we can do about it, well, just have fun in this life, that's it. As much fun as possible, because nothing can help. But that's not what it is, And so we can do better. And we can make better choices, if you will. So that's why we're talking about how can we bring attitudinal changes within ourselves? How can we bring sincerity, dedication, enthusiasm into Dhamma practice? We said we have to think about the impermanence of life. We all know this life will come to an end. That's nothing mystery. But we keep on procrastinating our practice for later time because we have not seriously considered the time of death is uncertain. It could sneak upon us any time. So before it does, we want to be prepared. We want to take advantage of our precious life so that we can create more positive karmas and so that we can engage sincerely in Dhamma practice. And that's why we are talking about all these teachings, thinking about impermanence of life, uncertainty of the time of death as motivating factors, and going for refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and not trying to get too much attached to friends and relatives and dear and near ones, not to hate and, the enemies, and not to really pay too much attention to the relationships because they do change. Friends become enemies, enemies become strangers, strangers become friends. So it's just not worthwhile to create negativities for their sake, because negativities we create are very personal, as we said. Nobody can share in this. We have to pay the price. Okay? Whereas if we can become rich through negativities, well, everybody wants a piece of that richness. Yes, that they can share. But the negativities that we end up creating are very personal, and that we have to pay the price. So we should think these things so that we can bring about the necessary changes and we can do better, right? We can improve ourselves. So that's the whole purpose of discussing all these, discourses.
This is 직바 신경지로 될 시다 좀 보세요. 다시 디 이거걸 현다 tip사서도 마요는디 다 이거처럼 지셔도 너무도 작게들 내면 좀 드려서 와이지 헛걸레도 말이지.
So at the time of the death, really nobody can help us to do anything, even if they wish to, right? Even in the case of a king, who has, this royal family with many queens and prince and princess and ministers and very loving, subject. At the time of the death, maybe among them, there are some very reliable, right? Under all circumstances, they will stand by you. You have such, queens or ministers. But at the time of the death, even you cannot expect them to help you because death is very personal. They cannot do anything about it. Yeah.
What is that? This is Geshe that you come together because Namutala, same to Moshida, the young Morris. And don't change, send them. Tezeman change me, start door together, and the Jiva chooses that you send for your just a time, no longer the court of my yard. Could have maybe I am what is. What is it? No. Seta ship me, here so. Geshe, Jumaran Juan, Jigby, Giuseppe, Goboshi. Jamena, Penny, so goes from Gyeltsen, Jumdo Chijelo, the Chevy, Palmy, on the Churashi, she has some Jakbange, Pame, the Chura. Dog and Shikara saw Chevy, Dungeta, Shiji Pony, Sinji TV, Dungeta, she would in you to Dungin so. Jigwashi bu jigje so jig human joan data wa yuba ma session machines meta jing ring the mene par ning bu chu se jame se dun di ring la se go so lungju so tap zam juba da danye so dan chebe che ta de se goba meba Yimi Shewe, Digway Mambo, she never drove him. Sasu, she Gyeltsen, did I pitchin Digway Shiva laws, some Gyeltsen Twin la. Don't Divan Joa Mashinjan, Jugrangi, Joshi, Tini, Majana, Jivale, Tata made Chetambo, Tetam the injection, Sim. Go Tamjila, Joan, so Shena, good it, you never jen Gashila, Jibu Cheva Podins, Yala Jebe, Sar, Tirin, Kiyanji, me, Gashi Cheva, Joanna, Tiang, so doing Chashizaya Menayang, Shindu Dani, Cheva Chojin, Gombe Dongi, Kakambar, Chiva. Churla, Shen Dang Yambatan, Mixang Yambate, Yamtapi, Tatang, Lucashin, Dala, Menga Domboso, Naming Jule, Namjuru Hindi Joa, Nana, Tita Jita, Dang Dumi, J, Dumi, Meji, Tele, Shejin Jita, Dumi Cheve, Never so in Nyam Kawanya, Shinji Pony, Shin Jigi Jig double curate, Shadow Jane, she su Shadow Jane, Sua, Chodes, Geshe Jing, Jing, Lula, Toy Nune, Dogun Sema Dobo, Jenda, Pavon Tabdu Jendus, Lucho Jing, Donghin. Don't the wrong jigbu teenage and jiggy tabi, no she boots and neg table you say, rub the yam tajing, tene, ngali, namjur Hindu, you are merge jigo, sheva, yana jiggy, chige near tabu nigi, table jua tea, she jars, Japan Java Mezon Chu Go Xie Sung de Teji Nyamta Wese Shangji Shua de Lula Sugova Namjuru Shindu Gua Meju Go Shevo was Oti Dadi Kaji Teresha. The Divasha Chogabuki Digida Jadu Society to Donati Gaza Shada Tili Tatile in a Chidang was a miss so do a major to a song to get that so students to do the tuition teach like and got to do the combat that little in Jiva churches could do short and Sheta Namjur Manda, she would not do Jackie Shower was. And then the wash was I dig to say, yeah, doing it to the say the soldier was not doing it, Sigmar Sheta, and doing it and the loss of sugar risk. Sheta tell easy means Jiva Jenny and Telia, and a good job news of job which dog or mother jail. She ain't on a job to me to soon your maris, what this is.
On page 17, stanza 42 onward reads, O protectors, I so unconcerned, unaware of such terror as this, accumulated a great deal of evil for the sake of this transient life. Petrified is the person, today being led to a torture chamber, with dry mouth and dreadful sunken eyes, his entire appearance is transfigured. What need to mention the tremendous despair when stricken with the disease of great panic, being clasped by the physical forms of the frightful messengers of death. So all of this related to, the practice of doing sincere confession of our negativities. And like an example given is when a criminal is taken to the place where he will be executed. Right, every step, right, he takes in that direction is bringing him closer to his death. As he comes closer to the location where he will be executed, he's going to have more fear, freak out, and his whole complexion will, change. So that's just to do with losing just this lifetime. Even then we can see a criminal is freaking out, like anything. Now, if we don't purify our negativities, this will precipitate our rebirth in the hell, where the suffering is, untold suffering, unimaginable, much greater than what we witness with a criminal taken to the execution spot. And so thinking about these things, because if we are reborn in a hell due to our negativities, before we purify them, is going to be untold suffering. So it has not yet happened. So we have an opportunity to most sincerely confess our negativities and seek refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And earlier, Geshe said, in the case of a king, right, king rules the kingdom, owns the the whole royal treasuries, but at the time of the death, it is a very singular experience, personal. Nobody can go with the king, okay? And forget about bringing anything out of the treasure. You can't even bring your body. Forget about even that your name will soon becomes like forgotten name, right? And after that, people will call you like, oh, our late king. Now that's not your name really, right? That's how even your name becomes kind of useless, So we should think about all this frivolousness of mundane affairs of things and dedicate ourselves into virtues and practice. Yes. No. So we will stop there, today, and we will respond to your questions. Do it. We have two questions. Question number one, can long life ritual practices extend lifespan? 제가 당부대 내리시게 아주 치료 지구하게 치료 제야 되게 채싱기 말을 왜사게
라
치료 제야 되게 채싱기 말을 왜사게 치료 제야 되다 되게 견디를 저와면도 셀르네바 요말 저러하게 그 전화 저러마다 잡아 말에 양조 타야 요말로 하게 다 디게 면에서 어떻게 치료 제야 되게 채싱기 말을 왜사
제 최접시 때지 팽거르세 지다시는 최접도 드네지 요말 쓰고리 초도 유바셔 이게 요말 쓰 팽아
노소
초도 유바서 찍히도 비게 뭐 두게 유로 내야 요말
나네
또 요말 쓰기도
노소
어디서 때 나도 최접시 해야 돼 채도 손음 가가 세서는 최접시 해야 말다
노소
채마 채세나 손음마지 손음스나 채마지 디데 게임 먹으면 디데야 이네 아마 소소야 저 채들 상마요 주 구가 소리 드리시 오노메게나 좋아도
노소
되보다 새 섬니가 세선 새로시아요 말이지
노소 Can long life ritual practice extend lifespan? Geshe says it is contingent upon a number of factors, such as, let's say, your life hasn't really come to an end yet, and your stock of merit is not exhausted, right? Given those two things, through long life ritual practices, it may be possible to extend your life a little bit, not much really. You know, the example given is that, if you use a stick to draw something on the surface of the water, right, it's just there for a moment, then it goes, right, like that. So you may be able to extend your life a little bit. Now, on the other hand, if your lifespan has exhausted, right, whatever the time duration, and your merit has exhausted, theoretically speaking, under such conditions, long life practices don't work. They can't do anything at all. So it is contingent upon your stock of merit, and your lifespan has not ended yet. That's how sometimes we hear about, how some lamas, they were able to extend their lifespan, through their, long life ritual practices, things like that. Next question. Doesn't disintegration refer to the momentary arising and disappearance of an entity such that no phenomena have any duration beyond their simultaneous arising and disappearance? And since they have no duration, they could not be decreasing. Okay, let me read this one more time. Doesn't disintegration refer to the momentary arising and disappearing of an entity such that no phenomena have any duration beyond their simultaneous arising and disappearance, and since they have no duration, they could not be decreasing. Okay, I think I got it. Okay. That again, anzo did again. The chamatang kaso again. Kichi ma can you draw your wagon? Wagon. Dik the David was pure the wagon. Tangazo kichi ma jig draw says your wagon. Jig draw said the dilago maris a chair kind room by Jekera. Koran kinjig roage. Kiaba the jigba tagaranlia and jigba lago marvesa. Never to the mebis roage. Never never in Nazarage. Kiaba the jigba cheese, never never in Narage. And my new drag a yomar was again. That jig nears on the doorman again.
Never to this and then Shagamarisi.
No.
You never got the era. The Lord Judge there and the Lord Jig the Judge for the dear one.
No.
Never to the Shire. Never to go you don't do it, and then never to lose showers.
I know, you
never come do it, says Lord Judge, they are giving Nicola Judge.
I think your question seems to be based on the presumption that there is no duration, existence of phenomena. It arises and it disappears, right? But that's not what it is. In the Buddhism, what we talk about is that the very cause that gives rise to itself is the very cause that it destroys or disintegrates. Okay? And the duration is not really explicitly explained there, but the duration does exist. An example Geshe is given, let's say if somebody is going to live 80 years, right? So this person is born, so until 80 years, right, this is the duration, right? Lifespan of this person. So there is duration, right? it's not that there's only arising and disintegration or disappearance. Okay? Arising, the very cause that gives rise to something is the very cause that it will bring it down, disintegrate. But it does not mean there is no existence or duration. There is. Hopefully that clarifies. Let me try to check. You have a question now? I have a prayer request somewhere. Let me not forget it. The Tiwan let me do again. The Jamju share you again. The Chik Shakju Chigdo again, Tunda Shumadi. Koran Mingla this again. Fem Huang Chung Sar again. And Tumba Jibjan Naronasa. A prayer request for Mr. Fem Huang Chung, who will have surgery next week. And I'm sure the others we can think about. So let's do Medicine Buddha mantra together. Toje Gunla Nyombe, Jomden de Senzan Tebe, Ngendu Dungese, Duzo Nese, Sanje Menjala, Bindu Yaye Vela Chas. Oh, that on Begaze, Man, Begaze, and the Samogade, so Theta, Begaze, Man, Begaze, and the Samogade. Theta on Begaze, Man, Begaze, and the Samogade. Theta on Begaze, Man, Begaze, and the Samogade, so Theta on Begaze, Man, Begaze, and the Samogade. Theta on Begaze, Man, Begaze, and the Samogade, so Man, Begaze, Man, Begaze, and Gambara Kange Lode Timye Dende Nyenda Namda Rapsebe Chinyen Dungun Geshe Seche Nije Toga Kanda Zebe Zera Mare Mendon Dunge Dozo Gunla Boje Daze Yala Doju Doda Chedo Nyemo Nyelo Leje Chado Den Mare Menze Dunge Nyugo Chinye Chunze Radena Dene Daje Saj Yende Lunzo Yeze Duwe Juda Juda Jambe Yangla De Omara Madana Didi Omara Manzana De Zende Cheje Jera Veze Dalu Temo Member Kada Denje Shonglo Tomba Ye Lode Bove Na Zedo Su Lode Gazu Udon Begate Gasan Bove Chido Mem Temban Zinla Wando Kishobe Tanyen Shu So Wan De Changju Simjo Rinpoche Maje Bana Jejoje Jeba Nyam Gone Gondon Pewara Sho Tongni Tawa Rinpoche Maje Bana Jejoje Jeba Gone Gondon Pewara Sho Sa Shi Yushin Jushi Medo Dam Rira Lingxi Yinde Yem Sanje Shindo Mede Wewa Rogun Nanda Shingla Jebara Sho Kangri Rabe Korbe Shingam De Pendan Dewa Malu Jung Chere Sewa Tenzin Gyaz Shabe Siden Bado Denjo Ji Idam Guru Rana Mande Niyandaya Me Yewa Gundo Yangda Lamanda Deme Cheye Bela Longje Sada Lamje Yunde Doje Change Goba Nyudo Jo
Children